Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Reverend Jim Ernsten. You are at Unity of Charlotte. So welcome this morning on this brisk winter morning. But here we are all together, keeping ourselves warm. Welcome to those in the sanctuary. Welcome to those on Zoom. And welcome if you're watching this later on during the week on YouTube as well. So I'm so glad that you're here with us today. So let's move into a moment of prayer. So as we take that breath, as we settle in this morning, as we move from our head down into our heart, we are so grateful for this chance to come together this Sunday morning. In celebration of Black History Month, in celebration of and the welcoming of diversity into our lives, this idea of inclusivity that we will speak to today, feeling the love and support that we give each other, and doing that with compassion. We are so grateful. And together we say, Amen. Unity of Charlotte is a place where we nurture a deep and mature experience of God through the practice of unity principles. Simply put, this means that we're here to love, grow, and serve. If you're here for the first time, I would love for you to acknowledge that you're here for the first or second time. Simply raise your hand and we can welcome you here. Or if you're here for the first time on Zoom, maybe put that into the chat and we can welcome you that way as well. So know that if you do have any questions, reach out to us about unity in general or Unity of Charlotte more specifically. You can reach out to myself, Reverend Lisa, or anyone on our staff or any of our members, and we'd be glad to speak to you as well. You can also check us out on the website, unityofcharlotte.org, and you can always communicate with us through the admin@unityofcharlotte.org email address. We'd like to move into our opening congregational song. The words will be on, so please stand with me. And this is Come Together by Eddie Watkins Jr.
Take a look at the person next to you and say, God loves you and I love you too. Now feel the love in the sanctuary. Lift your voice and repeat after me. We come together, 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 we come together. In the name of love, we come together, 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 we come together. In the name of love. Now look at the person next to you. Say, I recognize the God in you. Feel the love in the sanctuary. Now lift your voice and repeat after me. Oh, we come together, we come together, we come together, we come together, we come together. In the name of love, we come together, we come together, we come together, we come together. In the name of love, from every walk of life, every walk of life, every creed and color, every creed and color, in kinship we unite, in honor of the God in each other. Take a look at the person next to you. Say, namaste, I bow to you. Now feel the love in the sanctuary. Feel the love in the sanctuary. your voice and repeat after me. Oh, we come together. 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 In the name of love. We come together. 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 In the name of love. We come together. 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 In the name of love. We come together. We come together. We come together. We come together. We come together.
I can't stop singing. And we've got a few announcements this morning. We are reconvening our Sunday service team. If you are called to help us out with that, we've got some platform assisting, some reading of the daily word. We've got a couple different things. Please come and see one of us and join that team. It's a great way to serve Sunday morning. And yeah. Our annual meeting is coming up. Once a year, annual meeting. This is an important meeting. We will be voting on our nominees for board positions, as well as a lot of good information that we share with this community. So that is on February 26th. That is 3 weeks, correct? Am I counting right? 3 weeks is February 26th, and a different format since we have this room on a limited basis. We are holding our normal Sunday service a half an hour earlier. So in 3 weeks, we're starting at 9 o'clock. There'll be an abbreviated half-hour Sunday service, and then the annual meeting will start at 9:30 and go to 10:30. So a little bit different, a little bit of shake up there, but 9 o'clock in 3 weeks will be the change for that. We also wanted to share a little bit of information, this transparency with our community in that. And Reverend Lisa, send questions. What? Oh, for the annual meeting. If you have any questions, we'd love to hear those, see those ahead of time so we can prepare for those. If it's a question on numbers, a question on what's going on, send us an email, admin@unityofcharlotte.org. That way we can prepare. The board can prepare, the ministers can prepare, and we will be ready for all that good information to share with this community as well. You're welcome. Annual meeting, February, new space, transparency on terms of what's going on as we move towards a possible new space. We have re-engaged with the Wesley Methodist Church, correct, on Ray Road. That continues. So know that that is, we are still exploring that option. So that's still out there. And we just wanted to let you know that. So continue to hold that process in prayer. And go ahead and go to the next slide as we talk about our book study. That is the book that you see up there. We are meeting for the first time today after service in the prayer room, as well as on Thursday on Zoom. So know that these are duplicate classes. The class that we're holding today will be the same information and same discussion as it will be on Zoom on Thursday. So you can pick which one. And sometimes some folks have told me, well, I can't make this one Sunday. Well, that would be the week that you would just switch over to the other format. So Sundays, right after service, Thursdays on Zoom at 7 p.m. And we look forward to a good discussion on that book and comfortable conversations with the Black man. Purchase the book if you haven't already. And if you haven't and are planning on attending that Thursday, please let us know, because we'd like to get you and that information. We prepare each week with information, and we'd love to send you that ahead of time. Coffee with the ministers. We had our first coffee with the ministers this past Friday, and I would say it was a success. And we're going to hold that every Friday on Zoom at 9 a.m. So join us on Zoom. Pub Theology, once a month. Again, we held our first one last Thursday. Somebody who was there. Successful, not successful. I see big smiles on people's face. We'll hold another one next month. So the first, Alan's making me laugh. There is on the first Thursday of each month, we will be holding this. We're meeting again in March at Sir Edmund. Do you pronounce it Haley, whatever? Sir Ed's. We're meeting at Sir Ed's next month as well, 5 p.m. And that's in the Park Road Mall. Coming up is our Prosperity 2 class. That's in March. So watch for information on that coming up. And ongoing, we have our normal ongoing offerings, Course in Miracle on Thursday mornings, Dialogue as Service on Wednesdays, Intention Meditation on the first and third Tuesdays, the Belmont Study Group Tuesday evening, and our men's group, which meets here. That's probably the only one that is actually in person, meets here on the second and fourth Wednesday mornings of each month. Any other announcements that I may have overlooked? I think we've got everything. So those are our announcements. Now I can take a breath as we move into. Note that all that information is in our on our newsletter as well, and that's the most accurate way of finding out exactly. That's where the links, the Zoom links, will be as well. So if you aren't receiving that newsletter, sign up by emailing us at admin@unityofcharlotte.org. Our prayer of oneness. Let's go ahead and join in together on this one. So together, there is one presence and one power in my life and universe, God, the good, omnipotence. If you or a loved one is in need of prayer, please reach out to us. We're here always to pray with you during the week, whenever you need that. But at this time in our service, if you do have a loved one who is in need of prayer, gently say their name out loud at this time, and we will hold them in a bit of silence. So go ahead and say their name out loud now. Worry. We hold these names in prayer in our hearts with love. So also know that silent unity is out there for all of us as well. You can call them on the phone. You can text them. You can connect with them on a smartphone app as well. And they're available 24/7. Let's move into our daily word for the day. Today's daily word is healing. My faith is making me well. Unity co-founder Myrtle Fillmore's healing journey began when she changed her mind. Inspired by the words of a healing practitioner, she took this affirmation to heart: I am a child of God, therefore I do not inherit sickness. After 2 years of persistent health affirming meditation, prayer, and practice, Myrtle was healed. Her faith made her well. Myrtle Fillmore lived joyously and vigorously for many years. I take inspiration from this story. I too am a living expression of God. I feel my body's quickening response as I claim my inheritance of divine life, vibrantly active in every cell of my body. Good nutrition, exercise, and rest support my healing practice. My faith is making me well. From the book of Mark in the New Testament, he said to her, daughter, Your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your disease. My faith is making me well. And it is my pleasure to welcome up to the front our first song for today. And I will let Lawrence Tolliver introduce that song for us today. And a round of applause.
Thank you, Reverend Jim. There is a prevailing concept among Christians. It is called grace. There is a prevailing concept among Muslims, and it is also very compatible and maybe considered to be identical. The beneficence of God. Okay, and when we talk about grace, we are talking about unearned blessings. You have done nothing whatsoever for these blessings to come forth, and you acknowledge the reception of these blessings with the word grace. And so I've spent some moments in silence on the song that is requested of me today, Amazing Grace. And you'll notice in the way that I sing it that it's not normal, but trustfully, it will be meaningful to you. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. I was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to sing, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, snares, I've already passed. 'Tis grace that brought my soul relief to freedom that will last. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I see. I was blind, but now I see. Thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. Oh, that always touches me. Let's affirm together as we move through that process of finding our next meeting space, this prayer, this affirmation that we use during that process. So together, we affirm that we have a new home for Unity of Charlotte that fulfills every need for space and use in order to support and share our unified purpose to love, grow, and serve. And so it is. Thank you, God, I hear. Yes, absolutely. It's my pleasure to bring up to the front and to introduce Reverend Lisa Herklotz, who will be speaking for us this Sunday. Reverend Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So good to see you all here. This is a special month. As Reverend Jim said, this month is a celebration of Black history. And I think this is really important, not just for Black history, for all histories that were initially written out of the history of this country. And the reason I find it so important is because from a spiritual perspective, we are all one. And because we're all one, we can't leave out a part of ourselves. We can't leave out a part of ourselves and know our oneness. So what an amazing opportunity is being presented to bring all of ourselves together again. And that to me is like our next evolutionary spiritual leap of awareness. Because first we find a wholeness within our individual life. And Unity's been amazing at that. Unity's practice is all about turning within, finding that God, divine presence within, and utilizing these principles in our individual lives to bring that God presence out into the manifestation in this world. And now we do that, we begin that process by finding out the parts that within ourselves individually we've left out. That's the healing. We find out what we've left out or some misbeliefs we've had, and we correct those and bring those back into an alignment with truth. And now we are doing that together as one community, whether that's within our family, our spiritual family, and our global family. And that's, to me, the importance of celebrating Black History Month or Asian Pacific History Month, whatever parts of ourselves we've left out as a country and globally, we're bringing back in again. So we take this time to celebrate and to honor that. And we are really honoring the incredible contributions and presence that those who have formerly not had a voice get to start voicing. We get to bring back the stories that we haven't heard or known and bring them back into our consciousness collectively. And I know from my own experience how powerful that is for me as an individual, but also for us as a community. So what better topic than to talk about but inclusivity? Now, yes, let's stay on this slide for a minute because I'm going to ask you a couple of questions and feel free to respond. When we say the word diversity, what comes to mind? To be diverse, what comes to mind? Unique. A rainbow coalition. So lots of colors coming together. Got it. Anything else? How do we express diversity? Sharing. What about inclusivity? When we think of the word inclusivity, what comes to mind? Including everyone. Including everyone. Love, respect, tolerance. Excellent. Anything else?
Weaving together.
Weaving together. Nice. Being with people who don't look like us. Respecting all the cultures. One more. Knowing and accepting we are all one. Oh, there's one more over here. Embracing. Incredible. I love that. Beautiful. So I want to explore the idea of inclusivity a little deeper Because I find when we talk about diversity and inclusivity, sometimes they kind of meld together, but they're really two different things. They're connected by for sure, but they're two different things. And I'm going to start by sharing a quick story about me and how this appears in my own life. So I was single until I was 50. So I lived on my own for most of my adult life, and I really liked it. I did get lonely sometimes, and I did want to find someone to share my life with in a more intimate way than my friends and my family circle, but I enjoyed living by myself. I got to create my own living space. The pictures on the wall and the artwork that I had and where I placed the furniture, all was an expression of me. And I liked it. And then I met Reverend Jim. And we started to get to know each other. And, you know, I accepted this new relationship into my life. And I embraced the new relationship. And I enjoyed having someone to share with and connect. But, you know, as relationships grow, they get more and more into your life, right? When you're dating somebody, you still get to go home to your own safe, quiet little space. But when you start talking about getting married and living together, that's another whole level. Because what has to happen when suddenly it's not my space, it's ours? And, you know, that was a little bit of a challenge for me. And it stepped me through a growing process that made my life richer, more expansive, and more loving and connected. But I had to grow into that. And so I use this as a very personal experience of what we experience even as a community. And certain groups, as groups, we get together and we stay together and we get to know each other, and it feels really safe and connected and loving. But sometimes we forget that it's not inviting others in. We say we accept them. We say you're welcome here, but do we include them? So let's go to that next slide now. Thank you, Jim. So this is what I want to touch on today, the difference between being welcoming and accepting and even embracing, and what it means to be inclusive. Because as I have learned this on my own journey, it was very profound to me. Now, I want to start by looking at diversity. Diversity really has to do with our attributes and how we express ourselves as human beings, right? And it's not just race. Race is one form of diversity, but it's also our ethnicity, our culture, our gender, sexual orientation, our education, where our origins are from. These are all different ways that we express ourselves. And as humans, we have a tendency to kind of want to congregate with those like us in those areas. So diversity is a very broad expression of how many different ways we express ourselves. And we can be very welcoming, right? And accepting. I accept you wherever you are. But does that mean I'm including you as a part of what this is and who I am? So let's move to inclusivity. Inclusivity, one of the definitions I found is it is the effort and practices we put energy into to include different groups or individuals so they are culturally and socially accepted, welcomed, and equally treated. Inclusion creates a sense of belonging. I might walk into a group and feel that they've welcomed me there, they accept me, that I have I'm bringing a different perspective. But does the group change at all because of what I bring to it? Does it grow? Does it express itself differently because I've brought a different perspective? Or is it inviting me in to match where they are and become what they are at that moment. Inclusivity means that each individual is valued as being as essential to the success of the community. So I think about this as again, being at home, and you invite people into your home, and you welcome them, you accept them, you love having them there, but it's still your home. It has your pictures on it. It has your furniture arranged, much as I was feeling as I was nearing getting married. But now, and that's welcoming diversity and accepting it. But inclusivity means you're welcoming that person in, and you're looking at how they may shift with their perspective and their experience and their culture and their background. What do they bring into the mix that now has you express that in a different way? I love this visual because it meant a lot to me. Diversity is, yes, we're all different colors and shapes, and we come together, but inclusion means we come together as one. And each individual, with the difference they bring, adds to the expression of who we are and how we are in the world. This doesn't mean as an individual you give up who you are. It's actually embracing the individuality you bring, and then how do you mix it together to add to that richness within the oneness? So in a moment, first I want to touch on how we see Jesus modeling inclusivity, because Marcus Borg is a theologian and scholar, and he had a very progressive view on Christianity. He was part of the Jesus Seminar, and I really love what he wrote. And he describes Jesus as one of the hallmarks of his teaching is that he very pointedly attacked the purity system of Judaism. Now, remember, Jesus was a Jew. He was a rabbi. He was a part of that religious culture, but he brought new ideas to it. And within that time, Judaism had what was called a purity system, which meant that you had to follow a very specific set of laws to be considered pure. And if you didn't, you were considered impure, and you would basically be shunned from the community. And he said, he just brought another whole perspective to that. Now, this purity system, it was a dominant theme in the Jewish social world. And it focused on creating a world with sharp social boundaries between pure and impure, righteous and sinner, whole and not whole, male and female, rich and poor, Jew and Gentile. It was a system of laws that created a very strong delineation, which creates, the word's escaping me. What is that? Division. Yes. There's another when you're like dramatically separated. But he goes on to say that Jesus saw the divinity in all people, including the ones that were the Pharisees, who were the law keepers. And he said he challenged everyone to see the good. He challenged everyone to see God in each other. Now, if you do that, then where's the impure? Okay, so that shook things up quite a bit, as we know. And Borg goes on to say that the point is not that Jesus was a good guy who accepted everybody, and thus we should do the same, although that would be a very nice thing. He said his teachings and behaviors reflect an alternative social vision. We can go to that slide. His teachings and behavior reflect an alternative social vision. In other words, if we're truly going to start loving each other and seeing God, then the system we're living in, which is designed to keep us separated and be divisive, has to change. That was like very eye-opening to me. It's not just, oh, I'm going to love you and accept you. And it's like, no, I'm going to have to make some changes, not only in my life, but in how we come together. So he goes on to say he was a critic of the domination system itself. He wasn't talking about how to behave better within the framework of the system we're living in. He said the system we're living in isn't working and we need to change it. And that's what got shaken up so much with COVID. It was already in the works. We have so many people who have been active on the fronts of bringing forth this kind of change in our social system, in our collective. So we know Jesus raised a little hell while he was here on earth, right? He turned the tables. He responded, he rebuffed the Pharisees and said, no, your laws have to change. There's a new perspective. And here's what this new spiritual awareness is going to bring. But he also loved everyone, and he reached out to all of those who got left out of the system. That was where his mission was. That was where his ministry was. Although he spoke to everyone, rich and poor. Finally, Eric Butterworth said, the heart of Jesus' message of inclusiveness is best summarized in Matthew 22, 37, 40. Does anybody know what that one is? You're going to recognize it. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment. And the second, which is just as important, is love your neighbor as yourself. Now, in this, intrinsically, is love yourself too. Just love. He says that's the law. That's the law. So when we talk about inclusivity, then what does that really require of us? Both individually and as a community, as a spiritual community, how do we really become inclusive? It requires change. It requires a change. It requires a change in my mind, which I do by doing like the book study that we're doing. I've done many of these book studies to get a better understanding of the system we actually live in, because there's so much about this system I wasn't even aware of. I wasn't aware of how we functioned within it because it was just something I grew up in. But now that I have an awareness, I can start to bring about a change in how I show up and what I can do to make it better, to make it more inclusive. So we can't truly become inclusive if we're not willing to allow for change in our lives and in our spiritual community. We're comfortable in the world we've built, but when we let go of some of those things, that comfort level, and open up to a more inclusive engagement, our lives get richer. They get bigger and they get more joyful because we're literally bringing in another part of ourself. So going back to my story about meeting Reverend Jim and considering giving up my wonderful, safe, beautiful apartment space, there were many challenges because I had to join with someone else and go, okay, well, where do you want the furniture to be? Well, what pictures do you like to have on the wall? We have two different sets of things to share, but we wanted our lives to be inclusive. That's what a marriage is, really. And we're engaging in that type of a marriage relationship, really, even within our community, because we're saying, well, what do you bring and what do you want to see here? And that means I had to let go of a few things. And I think back now at my nice, wonderful little apartment with all my joyful treasures around me. And I remember it fondly, but I can't go back to it because I'm new And I'm new because I included someone in my life and changed and allowed for that presence to have an impact on how I lived. So what can we do? What do we need to do to be more inclusive? What is it for us that we're being called to do? How do we experience a consciousness of oneness in our lives, but also within our spiritual community? Only we look around and say, do I see, when we look around, and it's a little bit hard to say right now because we're in a rented space. It's not really our space, but what a picture of inclusivity. Look what's in our sanctuary. Isn't that beautiful? Now you might come in and go, well, that doesn't belong here. This isn't what I'm used to. This doesn't look right. I don't know what that is. It's foreign. It's strange. I came in and I said, wow, that is sacred. That has added to the sacredness of this space because this is very sacred to the Sikhs. I'll learn how to pronounce it, but I still can't do it. And I embraced it and included it in because this is a sacred space. But I had to change my mind and allow. So just to remember, it's not just racial diversity. This is a very big one in our country that we're dealing with. And so we're going to be looking at it head on to see how we can grow and learn and become more inclusive. But it's diversity in all ways. In all ways. So every time we bump up against something that's different and it makes us feel uncomfortable, it's an opportunity to learn. What is that? What is their perspective? And even greater than that, what gifts do they bring? What gifts are they bringing into my life and into this community? So I have I had one, let's go to the next slide. I had one quote I forgot to share with you, but it's a really beautiful one. Diane Reckler is a speaker and advocate for the rights of the disabled, which is another segment of our community and society that have been left out. And she reminds us that inclusion is not a strategy to help people fit into the systems and structures which already exist. Because those systems and structures were not designed to have them fit in. It is about transforming those systems and structures to, I would say, allow more in. And that's almost like saying, opening my heart even wider to allow more love in and invite. Thank you. That's beautiful. So let's go to our affirmation, and then I'm going to share a meditation with you. I'm going to read it out loud, and then I invite you to read this with me. As I allow the spirit of love to expand my heart space, I embrace all I meet. Together, as I allow the spirit of love to expand my heart space, I embrace all I meet. Thank you. Now I'm going to do a little something different for the meditation. I don't know if you know her, Reverend Paulette Pipe is a Unity ordained minister. She has an alternative ministry called Touching the Stillness. Thank you. She has the most amazing voice and presence. And so I'm actually going to use one of her audios to guide us through this meditation and invite you, if you're interested, to go check out her website, Touching the Stillness. She has beautiful, beautiful meditations there. And I'm really honoring her presence and the richness that she brings to our unity movement.
With our attention focused on our heart space, without judgment, we can assess whether our hearts are open fully, or if there is some part of our heart that's closed to someone in the community who is different in how they look or speak or behave. Who is our heart closed to in our community? Who doesn't belong? As you think that thought, where in your body constricts, tenses up? We shine a light into the darkness of unawareness, of incomprehension. Where have we been impervious to bias, to blind spots that we hold? We are ready to open our eyes and expand our heart. We are ready to let go of clinging to status quo for our own comfort and benefit, and allow the space that we live in, pray in, serve in, experience fellowship and community in. We let that space expand to encompass all. We expand inclusivity's wingspan just by our intention to create space in our own heart that lets others in.
Let's just stay in this sacred space for a moment of silence. And when you're ready, gently bring your attention back to this room, but keep your heart open and take whatever you've discovered in this meditation, take it with you throughout the day and ask, what is mine to do to be more inclusive? I love you. I appreciate you. And I behold the presence of that Christ light in each and every one of you. And so it is. So it is.
Now's the time in our service, our offertory, where we have a chance to give through this ministry and out into our community. So I invite our ushers to stand, and we will circulate that plate. We're trying things a little different this morning. We're going to circulate that, and then we're going to ask those gifts to be brought forward as well. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's circulate those plates. Joyously, I give this gift, knowing the divine presence blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.